to Relished. I'm Alli. I'm a yoga teacher and a nutritionist, and I'm here to talk nutrition and wellness every week. So, welcome to the show. This week, we are going to be talking about vitamin D, the 3 ways to get it, and a really awesome sounding mushroom burger recipe that's vegetarian. So, welcome to the show. Please put any questions and comments down in the chat. I love when everybody's interacting and saying something and part of the conversation. So I see that Kelly already said hello. Can't wait for mushroom burgers. I know. I'm so excited. I really am. It's just so we all know, it's from the relish.com website, from machismo.com, and it's called mushroom burgers. And it is going to be delicious. So let's talk vitamin D, then we'll get cooking. I've already sauteed the mushrooms, so our house already smells like mushrooms, the beginnings of a mushroom burger. So let's get started. Okay, so vitamin D. We have all heard of it. It is a fat-soluble vitamin, so if you're eating vitamin D, or eating something with vitamin D, you want to have some fat along with it so that you can absorb the vitamin and have all the good things happen inside your body. So it is a fat-soluble vitamin, and it's naturally present in some foods. Some foods are fortified with it. You can also take it as supplements, or you can get it from UV rays from the sun, which convert it to vitamin D. We'll go into that a little bit more. So, 3 ways. The 3 ways to get your vitamin D: through your skin and the sun, from your diet, or from supplements. So we will discuss each of those in further detail. Excuse me, I keep moving up closer to the camera. Okay, I want to make sure everybody can hear me. Okay, so, well, I'll go back to the supplement. I was going to say one more thing about the supplements, but I'll come back to it. Let's talk about why vitamin D is important, first of all. So, first and foremost, vitamin D helps the body absorb calcium. And we need calcium to have strong bones and stay healthy, or bones that stay strong, stay healthy, stay sturdy. So if we are not getting our vitamin D, excuse me, somebody just said it's frozen, but I'm not sure if it is still frozen. Let's see. Okay. Okay, sorry. Excuse me about that. Okay, so we need our vitamin D for calcium absorption so we have strong bones. And if we're not getting enough vitamin D and calcium, then our bones can be soft, and that comes in the form of rickets for children and osteomalacia for adults. So it's very important that we get our vitamin D so that we can absorb. Okay, good. All is good. Okay, so we can get our vitamin D. We need our vitamin D so we can absorb our calcium, so we can have strong bones, sturdy skeletons. So that is one very important reason to be getting your vitamin D. Okay, it also helps reduce inflammation in the body. It helps our immune system function properly. It helps with glucose metabolism. And there has been some research suggesting that vitamin D can also play an important role in regulating our mood and ward off depression. So there was a study done where scientists gave people with depression vitamin D, and they found that their symptoms improved after taking vitamin D. So that's pretty interesting. And there is some other research suggesting that long-term vitamin D supplementation could also reduce the risk of multiple sclerosis, MS. So that's an important one too. Oh, thank you for adding the link for our recipe. You will have to check this out, everybody. And you can follow along if you like with the recipe, if you have a different device to look at while we're talking. And pregnant women. Also, it's important for pregnant women to be getting enough vitamin D, because if they're vitamin D deficient, it may cause complications in pregnancy like preeclampsia, diabetes, preterm birth, or smaller babies. And it could also affect the baby's bones and growth and all of that. So if you're pregnant, it's important to get the right amount of vitamin D, either through food or, it's important to talk to your doctor about how to be getting your vitamin D. It's probably in every prenatal vitamin. So, important. All right, so those are all the reasons why vitamin D is important. Strongly because of our calcium absorption, strong bones, all of that. But also a lot of other good reasons too. So, the recommended amounts to be taking. So for babies 0 to 12 months old, the recommendation is 400 IUs, which is the international units. You'll see that on the bottle. If you're doing supplements, you'll see that. If you are 1 to 69 years old, the recommendation is 600 IUs a day. And if you're over 70, the recommendation is 800 IUs a day. I know some people recommend more, especially if you're living in certain areas of the world, but that is the standard recommendation. Just keeping that in mind. I'm going to give you some examples of how much is in certain food items. Then we'll talk about supplements. Then we'll talk about the sun. All of that. Okay, so food sources. Vitamin D does not naturally come in very many food items like other vitamins. Like vitamin C is in so many different fruits and vegetables and all of that. But vitamin D is a little bit hard to come by. But luckily, lots of foods have been fortified with vitamin D. So we'll go over those too. So the naturally occurring the foods that have naturally occurring vitamin D are fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, and tuna. So for example, 3 ounces of salmon. So kind of like, well, they always say like the palm of your hand or a deck of cards is like 4 ounces, so a little bit less than that. Has 570 IUs of vitamin D. And the recommendation for 1 to 69-year-olds is 600, over 70 is 800. So you're getting a good chunk of your daily needs in your salmon, and you're also getting your omega-3s. So salmon's a good way to go if you don't eat salmon, such as myself. Although I know it's really good for you, but I'm just not a seafood person. Egg yolks also have a little bit of vitamin D. 1 egg yolk has 44 IUs, so it's something. Cheese, beef liver, and mushrooms, which is why we are doing our mushroom burgers today. Half a cup of mushrooms can have up to 366 IUs of vitamin D if they have been treated with a UV light. So sometimes we don't know if they have. I don't know if the assumption is that they all have or what, but let's see. I had something to say about that. Yeah, so some mushrooms are treated with UV light to increase the levels of vitamin D, and a lot of times mushrooms are grown under lights, and so you're going to be getting that. It's a benefit of them being grown under light. So that's why we're doing mushrooms today. I always love a reason to make a mushroom recipe, so this one sounds like a good one. So a half a cup of mushrooms have 366 IUs, which that's a pretty good chunk. And easy to eat a half a cup. Okay, then on to the foods that are fortified. Typically, you'll find milk is fortified. You'll a lot of times see like vitamin D, whole milk, or vitamin D milk or whatever. You'll see it's added to that. So let's see, 1 cup of milk has 120 IUs of vitamin D. So if your kids, such as mine, drink milk, they're getting a pretty good chunk in their milk. So that is good. Also, lots of cereals are fortified with vitamin D. Orange juice these days is fortified with vitamin D, sometimes calcium. So if you're getting the vitamin D and the calcium in your orange juice, you're set. And yogurt. I don't buy a whole lot of yogurt, so that makes sense though. If the milk has been fortified, then the yogurt would be too. And then this, it's a food item, but it goes into the category of food or supplement, cod liver oil. A tablespoon of cod liver oil has 1,360 IUs of vitamin D. So you are set for the day. Okay, I see I have a question comment. I'm highly allergic to shiitake and other mushrooms. I'm highly allergic to shiitake and other mushrooms don't bother me. Oh, okay. Well, today's recipe has the cremini mushrooms and shiitake, but I'm going to say that I don't think the shiitake are necessary, but we'll see. because we puree it. So I don't think or we pulse, I guess, in the food processor. So I don't think it's going to be totally necessary. So you could avoid, if you can handle other mushrooms but not shiitake, I'd say skip the shiitake. So we will talk about mushrooms for sure when we do the recipe, but thank you for the comment. Okay, so yes, so lots of fortified foods, also cod liver oil. That's something you could just take a spoonful, or I know some people have made like salad dressings with it. You don't want to heat it, but consume it, at room temperature or refrigerated, I guess. So if you're up for that flavor, sometimes they add lemon, to the cod liver oil, so you don't have to taste a lot of the fish taste. So those are some pretty fairly good options. If you're not interested in that, then we have two other ways to get vitamin D. The next is through sunlight, sun exposure. So I'll tell you how, then I'll tell you a little bit after that. Okay, so there isn't an exact amount of time or formula that is like a true recommendation for how much time you should be spending in the sun to get your vitamin D. Some experts say that you could be outside for 5 minutes. Some say 30 minutes. So 5 to 30 minutes is what some people say. Some people say, especially during the times of 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and they say either daily or twice a week, and also to be exposing your face, arms, hands, and legs. So those are some criteria. That's not what everybody says. That's just something that I saw on a recommendation. So that's something to consider. But some of us wear sunscreen all the time because of the risk of skin cancer. And that is okay because we can get vitamin D other ways. We don't have to go in the sun. So if you happen to be in the sun, the only way you're going to get the vitamin D is if you're not wearing sunscreen. But some of us wear sunscreen all the time, so you don't have to get it from the sun. But that's just one way to get your vitamin D. One way to get the vitamin D. Because a lot of recommendations say to wear sunscreen all the time, especially with SPF of 15 or higher, or wear protective clothing so that your skin is covered. So if you are in that camp, don't worry, you can get vitamin D other ways. You don't have to go stand in the sun. But it's an option. Okay. So yes, if you're wearing SPF above 15, you're not going to be getting UV rays in your skin, which is a good thing. But you won't be getting your vitamin D in that way. So just so you know, supplements are the next piece of conversation. And doing my research for this episode made me realize we needed to buy some vitamin D. So everyone in my family is going to be getting their vitamin D in supplement form this week. So when you're looking for your dietary supplements for vitamin D, it's going to come in the form of vitamin D2 or vitamin D3. They both come from different sources, and they both seem to affect, or you can see results in your blood by taking either one. So keep that in mind. There are lots of different levels of each pill has a different, you can get 1,000 IUs, you can get 5,000 IUs. Talk to your doctor about how much you should be taking. I'm definitely not an expert on how much vitamin D you should be taking as a supplement because, there are varying amounts of, like some people are deficient, so maybe you need to take more, and some people are, at the right amount. So definitely talk to your doctor about how much vitamin D you should be taking. That's important. Let's now talk about the people that may be deficient in vitamin D. So people that wear, like we just talked about, people that wear sunscreen all the time aren't getting the vitamin D from the sun. So that could be, you could be deficient, but you also might be getting it in supplements. Okay, that could be the disclaimer for all of us. Everybody in this list could be deficient, but you could be getting it in multiple ways. So just keep that in mind. People with dark skin was also on the list. People that live in the northern latitudes, such as those of us living in Seattle, don't see the sun a whole lot. We see the sun less than other people in the world. Or people in high latitudes, or people in highly polluted areas also might not be getting the sun exposure. people that work night shifts because they're not outside during the day, and people that are homebound. So basically people that aren't getting exposed to the sun. Also, they say that infants that are exclusively breastfed need to get a vitamin D supplement. So they do have little drops that you can give the infants. So that's something to consider. And older adults, they say, and let's see, people with other conditions such as liver disease, cystic fibrosis, or Crohn's disease, or people that have had a gastric bypass surgery. So those are the list of people that could be deficient. These are all the ways you can get it: food, fortified food, supplements, sunshine. So hopefully that gives a pretty good span of ways that you can get your vitamin D. Very important for our health. So, especially those of us in the Northwest. You're going to say, hello. Okay, so should we start making the mushroom burgers? I'm so excited. Okay, so if you want to follow along, we've got the recipe down below. It's from mycheesebo.com, mushroom burgers, or you can take a look at that link later. Okay, so we're going to start off. I cut the recipe in half because the amount of mushrooms that I got was smaller than the amount, and it's just 3 of us here, so we won't be having that many. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the ingredients. We'll get cooking. All right, so we need cremini mushrooms, which are, I have my samples right here. Okay, my examples. These, the kind that you see all the time at the grocery store. Those are creminis, also called button mushrooms sometimes. So the recipe calls for 1.5 pounds. I had ½ pound. Okay, so cremini mushrooms, you chop them, you dice them. And then it also says to use dehydrated shiitake mushrooms, rehydrate them in some hot water. I didn't have dried shiitake. I just had fresh shiitake. This is the fresh shiitake mushroom, which I think is going to be okay. So I chopped those as well. So we chop the mushrooms, and I already did one little piece because I didn't want to be taking all of our time while this was cooking. And you put some olive oil in a pan. I added a little bit of salt, and you saute them. So this was, excuse me, my head was getting cut off. This was ½ pound, and they are diced, and they have already cooked. So you cook until all the water kind of releases from the mushrooms, which said 7 to 8 minutes. I'd say maybe it took 10 minutes. I don't know. And I feel like it always takes a little bit longer, but I sauteed them for about 10 minutes, maybe even 12 minutes. So next we will be adding onions, sliced onions. It doesn't, the sun is kind of shining here. There we go. Okay, onions. So I just, chopped these. It doesn't have to be an exact amount or an exact chop or anything because we're going to be putting this in the food processor with the mushrooms. So that's why I didn't cut the mushrooms super tiny, because we're going to be pulsing them in the food processor. Tasty, yes. This is going to be good. Okay, so let's add the onions. Very, very exciting. Thank you all for being here and talking vitamin D with me today. I always love to talk about something nutrition, food related. Okay. And make new recipes. I have not made this recipe yet, so we will see. We will see. But every recipe that I've made has been delicious, and they're all recipes from relish.com. All kinds of really good recipe writers from different blogs and websites. So check it out. Okay, so let's saute this. I turned the stove on it's level 7 on this dial. So medium high. I'd say that's medium high. My dial goes up to 8 and then high. So 7's medium high. Okay. We are sauteing. All right. While we're getting that ready, or while that's sauteing, I'm going to move on. and talk about the other ingredients. So now, after we do that, we are going to put the mushrooms and the onions in the food processor, as you can see right there. Oh, I see another comment coming in. Shoot. Let's see if I can pull this up. Oh no. Okay. I can't see what that bottom comment says. Okay. I will come back to that. I'm sorry, everyone, but I'm not able to see it for some reason. Okay, because I see there's a question mark. Okay, I'll come back to that. All right, so we've got our onions and we've got our mushroom sauteing. The next thing, so we will be putting that in the food processor, and then we're going to add a bunch of other ingredients. So I'm going to put the added other ingredients in the bowl while we're waiting for the onions to saute. Okay. I'm putting in half a cup, but it's 1 cup of breadcrumbs. And I will tell you that I bought some breadcrumbs today, and when I opened the bag, they were rancid. So we're going to be using almond flour instead, which I kind of wanted to know what that would be like anyway. So this is going to be a gluten-free version. Oh, I see. Okay. All right, so half a cup of almond flour. It's 1 cup, the recipe says. I'm cutting it in half. Okay. Almond flour and 1 egg. We've got 1 egg here. I've already scrambled it. 1 egg. And oat flour. So I didn't have oat flour, but I had oats. So I pulsed them in the food processor to make oat flour. Let's see if you can see it. Oh yeah, there we go. Oat flour. Okay. Yum. And they're gluten-free oats too, just in case you wanted to know. Parmesan cheese, 1/3 of a cup. Instead of cutting that in half, I kept it as 1/3 of a cup because I love Parmesan. Whoops, here we go, Parmesan. Okay, let's give the onions a stir. There we go. Cooking the onions. All right, I'm gonna turn it down to almost 6. Okay, we did the Parmesan cheese, half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, so 1/4 teaspoon for me. Cutting it in half. Cayenne pepper. These are going to be nice and spicy. Uh-oh. That dish must have had some liquid in there. Okay, there we go. Cayenne pepper. And it says 2 tablespoons. I'm doing 1. 1 tablespoon soy sauce. You can't really see it. You can see it when I pour it. There we go. Oh, that isn't gluten-free. Okay. Something to keep in mind. 2 tablespoons fresh parsley. I'm not cutting that in half. I'm doing a whole 2 tablespoons because I love parsley. Okay. And I think that's it. Olive oil. It says it's some olive oil, so let's add some. Okay. I'm pretty liberal with my usage of olive oil. And a little bit of salt. So I've really been enjoying the salt grinder. Not necessary to use, but I think it's fun. Okay. So this is smelling really good. I wish you could be here because it smells really, really, really good. Okay. So while that is finishing up, I'm going to mix all of these ingredients together. Okay. I think the almond flour is going to be okay. I think it's going to be good. All right. So now we've got this is kind of like the glue of the burgers. Okay. Then we'll take this off the oven and we will put this in the food processor. I'm going to put it over here. I'm going to put it up on here just so I can keep talking and not lean over like that. Okay. Onions, diced mushrooms. This is cremini and shiitake, both fresh in the way I made it. But if you have the dehydrated shiitake and you want to try that, that's awesome. Just let me know how it goes. Okay. Now I'm going to keep that lid off just because those are still hot and steaming. I don't want things to explode. Okay. There we go. And actually, I'm going to move that so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. Pulse. Pulse, pulse, pulse. Pulse, 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 pulse. And I used to do a yoga class where it was like a Pilates yoga class, and they always said pulse, pulse. So I always think of that. Okay. Alright, I'm just pushing down the pieces that kind of fly up, Okay. And we'll do some more pulsing. Pulse. Pulse, 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 pulse. Okay, it says to not make it a paste, but make it so that it's just really, what does he say? Greatly chopped. Okay. Oh, it's a rough paste, but not too much. So I think this is going to be exactly what they mean. Well, you can still see the steam. Did you see the texture? It's almost like a tapenade. Okay. Then we will scoop that into the bowl. The bowl with the oat flour and the almond flour and the egg. So you could use tamari or coconut aminos instead of soy sauce if you wanted this to be truly gluten-free. Okay. So there are options out there to make things gluten-free. Okay. And then we're going to stir this all together. I love when veggie burgers actually have like vegetables in them. Sometimes it's just like a bunch of grains. So I like when there are lots. I guess mushrooms are considered more of a fungus, but you know what I mean. And we've got our vitamin D, got some fiber, and yeah, got some protein from the almond flour since I use that. This would be really good if you added walnuts to it too, I bet. Okay, so this is the paste, and you know what? I think because I'm not using the full breadcrumbs, it doesn't feel as dry as it should be. So I'm going to add a little bit more almond flour. Okay, there we go. So I will report all of my findings tomorrow on Instagram. If you follow me, great, you'll see my posts. If you don't follow me, my Instagram handle is @AlliShircliff, ALLISHIRCLIFF. Okay. Then I'm going to do a little bit of the opposite of what they say. They say to form it into patties and let's just do one. We'll do one. Okay. I'm going to try 2 different ways. It says to form it into patties, dip it in breadcrumbs. I'm going to do almond flour, but I think it might be better if I put it in the refrigerator first, but we'll see. We'll see. Okay. Okay. So, form it into a little bit of a patty, like so. And then I'm going to put it in this almond flour. This is a bowl of almond flour that we've got here. Okay, we've got a bowl of almond flour or breadcrumbs, whatever you prefer. I'm just going to coat it this way. Okay, so that we've got it coated on all sides. And then we're going to put it on a plate. Okay. There we go. We're going to put it on a plate. Like so. Can you see it? Okay. And then we put it in the refrigerator, let it sit for 30 minutes, and then you cook it like a hamburger. So I'm going to show you my results tomorrow. It's going to be very exciting. But these are mushroom veggie burgers. So delicious. Vitamin D, you can get this from food. Food with naturally occurring, fatty fish, egg yolks, beef liver. or foods that have been fortified or UV added, like the mushrooms. Fortified foods like milk, orange juice, yogurt, cereals. You can get it from supplements. You can get it from sunshine. So lots of different ways to get your vitamin D. Try all of them. Well, try which ones you want, not all of them, but try which ones work for you. That's a better recommendation. Talk to your doctor about how much you should be taking if you are going to do a supplement. And talk to your doctor also about the sun exposure. But those are the ways to get your vitamin D. So we can have strong bones, strong immune systems. Really good for us. All right. Thank you all for joining. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you again next week. Get your vitamin D. Okay. Bye.